another motovlog, and this one's going to be a little bit lighthearted. I made some kind of negative ones a couple times, and I don't know, figured I'd make a motovlog of something that's a little more well, not as negative. This motovlog is about my last Liberty endeavor on the last deployment I had in the Navy. My last deployment was on the East Coast, and deployments on the East Coast are usually called a med cruise, and deployments on the West Coast are usually called West Packs, but you know, those are the main deployments for the Navy. And East Coast med cruises are, as the name suggests, mostly in the Mediterranean Sea, and the ports that we pull into are usually European countries. I've been into Greece, Italy, France, Spain, and I think Israel, but I can't remember if Israel was, yeah, Israel was on my last deployment, but that was not the main country for med cruises. But anyway, but my last med cruise, the last Liberty, was in a town called Brindisi, Italy. It's on the tip, I believe, I'll put a map here. It's on the tip of the heel of Italy, and it's kind of an old town type place. You know, it's not really a party town per se, but it was okay. The reason why, from what I remember, we pulled into Brindisi for the last Liberty port before we went back to the U.S. was because we were supposed to go to Rota, Spain, what we call out chop. Out chop means going home from the deployment, you know, the end of the deployment. So we were on our out chop, but there was supposedly a huge sandstorm over the north side of Africa into the Mediterranean Sea, and we didn't want to get caught in the sandstorm out at sea, so the powers that be pulled into Brindisi, Italy. And so when we pulled in, you know, usually when you pull into port, depending on what you do, what shift you're on, you only get, you know, every 1 or 2 days, you only get 1 or 2 days of Liberty, right? So depending on what they call your duty section. So I think it was the first or second, the first day or the second day that I was free to go on Liberty into Brindisi. And so again, this was over 30 years ago, so what I'm saying may not be 100% correct. It's just what I can remember. So anyway, it was in the afternoon, I think, because I had to work in the morning, and in the afternoon about 3 or 4 p.m. me and my other shipmates who were in the same duty section as me were able to get a bus that the ship rents, or you know, yeah, they subscribe or whatever, to get a bus to haul the people in and out of the port into the city to recreate, right? So we get on the bus, me and about 3 other guys. We get on the bus, we go into Brindisi, and usually the first thing we do back in the 90s, because we didn't have cell phones or internet or anything available to us, first thing we did was find payphones and make phone calls to our family. So, you know, we get the bus drops us off downtown Brindisi, where there's a lot of restaurants and bars and shops and stuff like that. And so I find a payphone and I wait in line. You know, there's only maybe 5 or 10 payphones in view of where they dropped us off. So I go to the closest payphone with the least amount of people in line. I think there were like 4 or 5 people in line. And so, and you have to buy these phone cards from local vendors. And then, you know, you punch in the numbers, and of course, you know, you'll pay like 10 or 15 bucks. You have to do money exchange. There's, on the ship you can get money exchange. So I think I only exchanged like 20 bucks or something like that. And so that way when you go out of town, you can buy local things with local currency. So I buy this phone card, I go and wait in line, and because you have to pay using these phone cards, you know, you're pretty much limited to how long you can talk on the phone. So I get in line, I wait, and of course my shipmates, some of them don't have anybody to call, so they just go straight to a bar and they buy their refreshments. So I'm waiting in line, and one of my shipmates comes up and hands me a beer. I can't remember the name of the beer, but so he gives me a beer. You know, I'm drinking, I'm waiting in line, and then about 5-10 minutes later, another guy comes up, hands me a beer. You know, I'm drinking, and then another 10 minutes, another guy comes up, hands me a beer, and then one of my shipmates, he bought a bottle of Crown Royal and 1 can of Coke. And you know, they give him plastic cups, so he gives me Crown and Coke. Basically 2 shots of Crown and a little spritz of Coke. So you know, so far I had 3 beers and one cup of 2 shots of Crown and Coke. So then it's my turn to get on the phone. I make my phone call, and I think it was only like a 10-minute phone call or something, which is all that the card would pay for because you're calling international. So then after I get done, and I think I ate lunch that day, but I didn't eat anything in town yet. So we, you know, I got off the phone, I go hang out with my shipmates, and we're just drinking our sorrows away. So then it was my turn to buy, you know, rounds of drinks. So I buy a round of beer for all my, you know, all my buddies, 3 guys that were with me, and you know, and then we go bar hopping. And I don't remember a thing after the phone call. I don't remember anything else after that phone call until it was time to go back to the ship. So we start heading back to where the shuttle bus to the ship was, and you know, I'm pretty tipsy, but you know, I'm still conscious. So we get to where the bus stop is. We're waiting and we're waiting. Here comes the bus. So then you know, we're walking, we're moving around, so you know, our my blood flow is still pretty, you know, running pretty good. I'm still conscious, and until we get on the bus and I sit down, and one of my shipmates is sitting next to me, and I'm like, I don't know, a quarter of the way back from the front of the bus, and we start moving, and about 5 minutes into the ride, I start feeling queasy. You know, I start feeling the refreshments coming back up. Well, I start getting a little greener and greener and greener, and I was like, oh crap, you know. And I was like, hey, roll down the window so I can. I told my shipmate, hey, can you roll down the window so if I have to puke, I can puke out the window. So he goes to try to roll down the window or open the window, but I can't remember if it was just the top one that goes down or he couldn't get it open. So I was like, oh crap. I was like, man, I'm about to lose it. So we look around, and at the front of the bus, to the right of the bus driver, there's this trash can. It's about this big around. It's probably about 6-inch diameter, and you know, probably like 12 inches tall. Looks like a trash can. So he kind of nudges me in the shoulder and he points to the trash can. I'm like, okay. So when I start feeling the refreshments coming back up, I get up out of the bus, I grab that trash can. I don't care anymore. It's like, I'm sure the bus driver would prefer me puking into his trash can than puking all over the floor. So I puke into the trash can. And of course, when I'm puking, I had some gas in me come out the other side. So then the other guys in the bus, they're on the ship, but they're in a different department. So he said, man, what the hell's wrong with that guy? You know, they start criticizing me. He's like, man, he can't hold his liquor, and you know, he's a lightweight and stuff. And of course, my shipmate defends me. It's like, well, he had like 6 or 8 beers and like half a bottle of Crown, so what do you expect? I don't remember how much I drank, but I just know that my body didn't like it. So after I get done with the regurgitation, I go back to my seat. I think the bus driver kind of looked at me with a scowl, but I go back to my seat. I sit down, and you know, I didn't pass out, but I'm just like breathing heavy. And so we get back to the ship, to the port, and I think we still had to walk about another quarter mile from where the bus dropped us off to where the actual port where the ship is tied up at. So we're walking, and I'm stumbling. And when you get back on the ship, the things you have to do, you have to salute the flag on the fantail, right? You walk up the ramp, you look at the flag, you salute the flag, and then you hold your ID card to the watch, the guard, right, at the top of the ramp. They call it the gangway. And show them your ID card and say request permission to come aboard, and you know, they say permission granted. So, but the problem was I was stumbling, and it was questionable whether I could make it up the ramp or not. So my buddy, he grabs the back of my shirt and he's like guiding me up the ramp to make sure I don't fall over. And so I get to the top of the ramp, you know, to the middle of the ramp. I do my salute, I get my ID card out, and you know, stumble up to the guard and do my, you know, permission to come aboard. And he's like, yeah, whatever, permission granted. He lets me in. It doesn't even bat an eye, you know, because I'm sure I wasn't the only one showing back up to the ship pretty tipsy. So then I get back to I get back to my compartment, my berthing compartment, and I just crawl into my rack. And I remember I was really cold, so I reached down and, you know, you fold up your blanket and you put it at the bottom of your rack in the morning. So I grab my blanket and I pull it up over me, and you know, over my shoulder, and you know, I feel warm, but my legs are still cold. But I was so out of it, I didn't care. I was like, oh well, you know, at least the top of me is warm. I can go to sleep now. When I wake up the next morning, I looked and saw that the blanket was still folded in a square, and I only had like an 18 by 18 inch square of blanket over my shoulder. I still had, you know, I was still fully dressed. I didn't, you know, I didn't change into sleeping clothes or anything. But yeah, those were good times. So there it is. Good times on my last deployment. Talk to you later.